Hey there, it's Batavia here. I am super excited to share my backyard garden area with you. I am going to do this video in two parts. The first part will be everything that I'm growing and nursing on the deck area, so the porch area, as well as those veggies that I have growing in the raised beds in ground. And then part two, we're going to focus on all of the raised beds that I have sitting on the patio. Some of the things I grow there are a little bit different just based on those different conditions. So I welcome you, and we'll be back in just a second. Thanks. Alrighty, so we are just going to walk through a few of the flowers and the plants that I have on the back porch. So the top portion of the back porch actually gets a bit of early morning sun, but for the most of the day it's shaded. So I have primarily planted flowers here that like full sun, but I've tried to tuck away a couple that prefer a bit of shade. I'm not sure, it's still kind of mixed results. So taking a look here, I have two begonias. These are begonias that are advertised to enjoy full sun. I've just learned that's really not the case, so I've tried to tuck them away here, but I still noticed it's been a bit damp here today, so you can see that on the leaves and the petals. But this is the result of sun scald or sunburn. Once everything dries up, I'll pick those blooms off. And I noticed that it just continues to happen, but all in all, they still remain really pretty. So I'll leave them here for the rest of the season. And then next year, I'll probably just think about whether or not I want to put them here, because I'm sure I'll buy them again because it's one of my faves. This is a plant, Tropical Nature. I don't remember the name of it. My nursery had this on clearance, I don't know, maybe in July, and so I kind of situated it here. It's thriving. I don't know that I have a picture of it. If I do, I'll slide it in here, but it has really grown since I first brought it home. And this is a plant that I will bring inside once the weather gets cold. So continue to grow it inside and then bring it back out next summer. So a bit of my distressed begonias again. Again, probably not the best place for them. I don't know if I have any place in my garden area that's shady enough for them, but we'll see. Forgive the crow in the background. This is the first year I've planted zinnias. Read great things, saw some videos online about how they're real companions of your garden area, vegetable garden area. So I have planted some of them that I purchased, others that I planted through seed, just dropping some seeds in these pots. I love this look where they're all kind of just scattered here. These are two separate pots. But these, they don't hold water much. So next year, either I'll play around with the kind of potting soil to maybe peat moss ratio, or I'll just have to continue to kind of water nearly every day. I have some sweet potato vines here. They really bloom out and spread, so it's always a nice addition to pots. I'm going to pan over here. These are three plants. I think it's three that I started with. Elephant ears, and maybe even before. This is another plant that I can take inside once the weather gets cold, but it struggled a bit while it's still growing. It's producing, you can see the baby elephant ears down here. It still has struggled with kind of some sunburn here. So again, a shady spot. I just swapped the chair and the elephant ear this morning, but maybe not shady enough. So a little pot that's a bit decorative, but also for the aroma. It's a little bit of a lavender here in this pot. These are kind of duplicated. So I have all really tropical varieties. So this is a croton, I believe it's pronounced. I buy these because they are just so colorful and so pretty. I buy these every year. It can be treated as a house plant. And if so, generally it thrives. I like to have it outside, and each year I end up either kind of letting it die at the end of the season outside or bringing it inside, and it just struggles and ends up dying, you know, from the transition. So I'm gonna try it again this year and see if I can save it once I bring it inside. It's super duper pretty. I have around the base of the plant planted some dahlias, a couple of other colorful flowers. Dahlias are probably in my top 5 fave as far as flowers go. I'll move on to the mandevilla. I have 2 pink plants that are in these pots here. I actually, for this plant, this is the full pot is full of dirt, and I've put the plants inside. But for these, I'm just really using the pot here as a holder because I think it's really pretty, the color green. But these are actually sitting in baskets. So same variety. I moved these out of the front yard garden, the vegetable beds, because I wanted to make some room for some more vegetables. And I put these in these pots. I plan on moving these up front as soon as I get the area fenced in. You can see these drop a lot of blooms, but they really flourish. And I think it's vinca. These are actually grown to kind of tower over, which I really like. And this is super cool because this is a basil plant that a neighbor gave me as I was out this summer in the front yard. I met quite a few people, quite a few neighbors that had met before, which is really nice. And she said someone at her job gave her the basil plant, and then she said, hey, who can I think of that can use it? And she thought about me because she had chatted with me before. So I repotted it, and it's doing pretty well. You can see it here, it's flowering a little bit, which is generally kind of the last stages of a plant's life. So I'm just going to pinch that off so it can continue to produce more basil leaves, and I can continue to consume them. So those are the flowers and things that are on the backyard deck area or porch area. Alrighty, so we have gone over all of the plants and flowers that are on the back porch and deck area. Now we'll focus on just a couple that are around the garden area, and then we'll dig into, no pun intended, the garden beds. So dahlias, I'm going to continue to say my faves, maybe top 3 of my faves. Found these at a garden center on sale, which is always a treat, pretty late in the season. And I think that same day I actually spent quite a bit of time chatting with a customer and a Home Depot cashier about all things that are flowers. And I think the customer told me that I can bring these in the garage over the cold weather, over the winter here in Chicago, and then I can bring them back out next spring, and they will bloom again. So I'm super interested in that, and we'll see how that goes. But panning around, my neighbor's fence I've used, she's a great neighbor, and we've chatted. She doesn't mind, or at least she says she doesn't mind. I have put in these 3 tier pots. I think there are 4 of them total. The marigolds, which are just, they flourish every year, and they are also said to be a deterrent for various pests that may come near your garden. They don't like the smell of them. So the only trouble I've had with these are they're in the super small pot, so they really need watering every day. Luckily the last couple of days it's been pretty wet here. So I am going to come back in just a second after I take the covers off of these beds and then open up the cage baby here that houses most of my tomatoes. So we'll see you in just a moment. So we are at bed number 5. So counting the 4 beds in the front, this is bed number 5. Next to it, bed number 6 and bed number 7. So bed number 5 is really kind of my leafy green bed. It's a mixture of things I planted both by dropping seeds in the ground and then that I purchased kind of baby plants or starter plants from a nursery. So over here on the right is my red chard. It's doing really well. I started that with seed, dropping the seed in the ground. This is Russian kale. There are a couple of plants in here. It produces huge leaves. They're really great for wraps, good for smoothies, or really even just salads. I have something in here that's eating away at it. This bed is covered to try to avoid that, and I think I found the culprit. There you have it. So this is what I shared with the flowers. I picked that off. So it just sits there and eats. I'll have to take a close look at all of the leaves here and pick them off and hopefully keep this bed covered so I can retain some of this greatness. So anywho, we have curly kale. This is what you likely see in the grocery stores often. I have 2 plants that are smaller that I planted in August. I bought from the nursery. And you can see here, and then I have 3 others on the other side that are larger that I planted from my nursery purchase earlier in June. Over in the corner here, my first year growing cabbage, and it's doing okay. This is 2 plants that are in ground. One of the early variety, which is said to be ready for harvest 60 to 70 days after planting. And then one of the late variety, I think it's closer to 100 days. I'll show you in the next part the cabbage that are sitting in the raised beds on the ground. More curly kale. So this is, again, 3 plants really that I purchased from the nursery and planted in this bed. Doing really well. It said that curly kale, and generally kale, but specifically curly kale, is very hardy. I can leave this out here once the weather gets cold, even after the first frost, when temps drop to 32 degrees or below. And it's said to get sweeter once the cold weather hits. And if I change out kind of the covering I have here with plastic, I could actually harvest off of this for much of the winter. So we'll see. Dinosaur kale is here. I actually really enjoy dinosaur kale, but I crowded this a bit. I planted this from seed, and I can't remember for sure, but planted 2 or 3 plants. But only one of them has really sprung up. I think just because the curly kale on one side and then the forward hook chard on the other side has just taken over. So that is my leafy green bed. So I am going to wrap up this video here and show you some before and afters of the leafy green bed number 5. This next part of the video that we'll be sharing will pick up with the tomato plant bed. That's my cage baby. That's bed number 6. But because you watched this whole video, I do want to share some bonus footage with you up next, so it's a real treat. Stay tuned. So this is a butterfly that started as a caterpillar on the dill that's in my backyard, and it is turned into a beautiful butterfly, the black swallowtail butterfly, and it is enjoying all that is this first sunflower that's bloomed in my backyard and in my garden ever. So pretty cool indeed.